Somehow, someway, DL Hughley became the oracle of black culture and news. Not exactly sure why that happened, but it did. But it's annoying. So let's get into it. So this is from the fallout of the Janet Jackson interview with The Guardian, where she said that she didn't think Kamala Harris was black, and she thought Kamala's dad was white. Now, depending where you are on the debate, some people agree with Janet. Probably a lot more people probably agree with Kamala. The debate is still out there. So then DL Hughley, professional pit bull, got into the fray, and he posted a very horrible set of tweets against Janet Jackson. Very vicious in nature. And one of the tweets, which are still up, by the way, and he said, hashtag Kamala Harris looks the way she does because she has a mom from India and a dad from Jamaica. Janet Jackson looks the way she does because she has a plastic surgeon, Team DL. So I've been accused at times that I criticize women too much. I criticize anybody who doesn't make sense. But I focus on the subject. I don't focus on looks, right? Who am I to judge anybody, right? But for DL to go after Janet Jackson's plastic surgery and her looks is completely off base and horrible. But DL's always been this way. Like if we go back to like the Comic View days of DL, he made his career off of criticizing people in the audience. Now these weren't hecklers. You probably had a heckler or two, but these are just people that he randomly just looked at and just started ripping them. And sometimes it's just like, well, sometimes it was funny, but sometimes I said, man, like, how do people feel about that? And Eddie Murphy kind of did that in The Nutty Professor with the Dave Chappelle character, when Dave Chappelle was just ripping Sherman Klump. And at first Sherman was laughing, and then he was kind of laughing, and then after a while it was just sad. It was like one of the most emotional parts of the film, which I thought Murphy could have been nominated for an Oscar for that role, because you just really felt for Sherman as Chappelle just went relentlessly say how fat he is, right? And then Klump comes back as Buddy Love and destroys Dave and all that stuff. But that's how DL really got his career going, is just ripping people. And then he got into Kings of Comedy. And then when I look at the Kings of Comedy, I was like, I don't really remember a great routine by DL, right? Like Bernie was like, my American cookies. My American cookies. That routine will always sticks in people's minds from that film. That's the number one routine, right? And then with Cedric had the routine about the car in outer space, even though some people said that he lifted that joke from somebody. I don't know, but that's what's out there. And Steve Harvey, and he was hosting, so that was fine. Because I remember Steve Harvey was talking about the dude that was walking back to his seat late, and Steve took his coat. So you remember those things, but I don't remember DL's routine in the Kings of Comedy. Like, he was funny, but what did he do? It's the same thing. Like, I don't remember a signature DL Hughley comedy special. Like, Chris Rock has Bring the Pain. Eddie Murphy has Raw and Delirious. Dave Chappelle has Killing Me Softly and Sticks and Stones. Richard Pryor has a whole host of comedy specials that you can look at. It's like, wow, they're great. I don't remember anything great that DL Hughley's ever done. But DL, later on he did the Hughleys. He did the smart thing. He did TV. And I enjoyed the Hughleys. Hughleys was a good show. Partly because I loved Elise Neal. Like, anything Elise Neal was in back then, I would watch it. I don't care how good or bad it was. I'm watching her. But it was a good show, right? Ran for like 5 years or something. So that was good. And then he transitioned to movies. He did The Brothers with Shamar Moore and I think Morris Chestnut and Bill Bellamy. That was I saw that a couple of weeks ago. Still a good film. So he was actually had a pretty decent career. But then all of a sudden, once he started growing his hair out, he started to change. And then during the Obama era, he started writing books, and he started about politics. And it's like, okay, what DL's talking, he's kind of morphing into something else. Okay, that's fine. But all of a sudden, like, people started looking at him like he knew everything about politics. And CNN gave him a TV show. And it's like, why are you guys giving him that? I mean, he's okay, but I don't know if he's not Paul Mooney, right? I don't know if they would never give Paul Mooney a show. They would never give Paul Mooney a show, never. But they gave DL a show, and it didn't work. It kind of reminds me like today with Charlemagne. Like, Charlemagne, CNN loves Charlemagne the God. Now, Charlemagne, Stephen Colbert gave Charlemagne a show too, and it didn't work out. But Charlemagne is different from DL, because DL has a syndicated radio show, just like him, Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley. But Charlemagne is a professional DJ. I think he went to school for this, or he got into the business. But as a DJ, the first thing you know as a DJ, if Janet Jackson says something like that against Kamala Harris, you don't want to burn that bridge because you want to get Janet on your show. DL didn't do that. He just went straight after Janet. Where he could have said, hey, Janet, I know we disagree on this. If you want to come and debate on my show about why you feel the way you feel about Kamala Harris, you always have an open invitation, or we don't have to talk about Kamala at all. I know you're on tour. We would love to have you on your show. That's the way you talk to Janet Jackson to get her on your show. If you never had her on your show before, that's how you do it. If Janet wants to debate it about Kamala, that's fine. If not, just have her promote her tour. But see, he burnt that bridge because he's an idiot. What do you say? The GED section? I can see why he got a GED. Shout out to my people who got GEDs. You worked hard, got your GED. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about him. It makes no sense. This is why I've never been in favor of stand-up comedians having syndicated talk shows on urban radio. I don't see this over in pop radio. I don't see this in top 40. It is still Ryan Seacrest. It's still Elvis Duran. They're still the top dudes because they're DJs and DJs. Because I was DJ in college. I know people who wanted to be DJs, wanted to grow up. You go into small towns like Asheville, North Carolina. You hope you move up to a place like Cleveland. They go into a secondary market, and then maybe you go into New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Miami, LA. If not, if your show is good enough in the market that you're in, then you might be syndicated from your market because you're so good. But these people are trained to be DJs. Guys, for some reason, Steve Harvey is the first one, and I get it. They have a built-in audience. People like them. I kind of get it. But they're not DJs. They're not professional DJs. So Ricky got a show, DL got a show, and they're fine. But these aren't the type of DJs I grew up listening to. I grew up, guys like Donnie Simpson, right? When I was a young guy, I looked at someone like Donnie Simpson. He was on Video Soul because we didn't have Donnie Simpson in the Akron, Cleveland area. I love Donnie's voice. I love Donnie, how he interview guests. I said, man, if I could ever be like a professional DJ, I want to be like Donnie Simpson. That dude is so cool. And then there's other guys like this. There was an Asian R&B host. I think his name DJ Theo. I think it's him. Man, he had the coolest voice, man. He had the coolest vibe, man. It's like, man, I wish I was as cool as DJ Theo. I wish I could sound like DJ Theo. It's like, man, I wish I had that type of baritone in my voice instead of this thing. But man, you used to when DJs was on the radio, you used to aspire to be those guys. Even a guy in Cleveland like Lynn Tolliver, right? He wasn't Donnie Simpson, but he was entertaining, right? Or guys like Joe Madison, he was more of a talk show type host, but he was a connection to the people that he represented. The people talking about politics and news to keep people informed. I love that. Now, today, when you turn hip hop and R&B stations or adult R&B stations, on the R&B side, hip hop and R&B side, there is no separation between the audience and the DJs. There used to be a separation. It's like, hey, I want to aspire to be this person. The host sounds almost like the person on the phone. If it wasn't for the clear of the microphones they have, you couldn't tell the difference who's the caller and who's the DJ. Same thing over here on the adult R&B side. Why do you have to be a stand-up comedian to be on the station? What? There's tons of people, man, that's probably in smaller markets who can do a better job than Steve Harvey or Ricky Smiley or DL Hughley, but they're not getting that shot. They got squeezed out, and I don't know why. So yeah, somewhere along the way, DL became this guy talking about politics. And it's like, okay, we all got our opinions, but is he the best guy to talk about it? And he claims, like when Dr. Umar said, like, they said, the Harris administration wanted to pay him for an interview. I don't know why he would do that. But, he said, well, Steve Harvey, DL Hughley, and Ricky Smiley, they all paid off. And DL and those guys said, oh, we're not being paid off. But sometimes the way he reacted to Janet Jackson feels like you got paid off. It's like, hey, if someone says anything bad about Kamala, your job is to attack them. Now, he say that's not him. He said, I'm not getting paid. So, dude, it's one thing if you want to ride or die for Kamala for president. That's fine. But to attack Janet Jackson over her looks, over plastic surgery, her family, you crossed the line. And a lot of people that's on his Twitter, I'm glad they still have it up. A lot of people were not feeling that, and they were ripping him, and rightfully so. We hear all this all the time, like protect black women. Absolutely. But what about him? He's one of the main dudes that always talk about protect black women. Well, you just ripped a black woman just because she had a different opinion. Why would you do that? Man, I swear to God, I miss real DJs. I miss real hosts. Hopefully the fans would turn their backs on DL and his show get canceled. But hey, it's not up to me. That's on y'all.